My name is Anisa Baldwin Metzger. I'm with the Center for Green Schools at the U.S. Green Building Council. The Center for Green Schools is an entity within the U.S. Green Building Council of about 10 people. Half of us are working on higher ed and half on K-12, kindergarten through high school. And I work mainly with school district facilities staff, school district staff on the K-12 side. So I am going to talk to you today about a fellowship program that we began in 2011. But first, I'm going to tell you about 3 things I think you might be interested in based on the conversations we've had so far here. The first is some work that we've been doing on linking the impact of school buildings with childhood health and learning. And there was a paper that came out about this in 2006. National Science Foundation funded it. It was great, but it was about 120 pages, and nobody's going to read it. And a lot of that research is still the most current research. So we brought together the group that put that together, had them come up with some of the stuff that has happened since 2006 in this particular area, and we've put it together in about a 20-page document that's nice and pretty and easy to read. And this came out in February from us, but this brand new, beautiful version is coming out next week. So I wanted to let you know about it. It's divided in 2 parts. The first part is about the effect of the school building on various things that can indicate how well a student can learn and a teacher can teach. So how well students see or hear or breathe or focus, that sort of thing. So the first half is on that. And the second half is on the ability of various stakeholders in the school's arena to advance the research agenda in this particular area. So sort of a page per stakeholder and how they can affect this. So that's number 1. Number 2, does anyone have a teacher in their life? Sister, brother, spouse? Okay, great. So you're here because you care about how a teacher affects, how an individual affects their environment. This certificate that we just released in March is particularly about how teachers affect their classroom environment. So there's a lot of stuff out there about environmental education and all of that. That's not the focus of this certificate in particular. This certificate is for teachers to understand how to maintain a healthy green classroom. It's a 2-hour online training course and a 1-hour assessment. It can be taken from anywhere. It's online. It's animated, scenario-based, fun. And we're offering discounts on this exam. So if you have someone in your life who's interested in this or that you would hope would be interested in this, let me know and I can work out a sort of special discount for you guys. Only today. Get it today. Act now. All right, number 3 is the Green Apple Day of Service. This is a huge effort from our team. September 29th, 2012, we expect tens of thousands of volunteers around the world to participate in the Green Apple Day of Service. I left cards about this out on that front table. We would love for you guys to participate in this. The website for it is mygreenapple.org, and there are you can sign up for events that are already happening in your area, or you can post events that you want to do in your community. So that's number 3. Okay, break, and. So if I was giving the presentation that I have given many times in the last few years, I would start here, and I would tell you about how I started my work with the U.S. Green Building Council in New Orleans after Katrina, and I would tell you that this is the flood map of 80% of the city flooded. I would tell you about the destruction that flooding that stuck around for 3 weeks, full of oil and chemical and dead animals and all sorts of things, the damage that did to the school buildings in New Orleans, and how widespread that damage was across all the 128 school properties that the Recovery School District and the Orleans Parish School Board were in charge of at the time. I would tell you how terrible the school system was before the storm and how horribly performing it was, one of the worst in the country. And I would tell you about the damage that then happened and the quantification of that damage from the storm. But I'm not giving that presentation. You can talk to me about it later. What's important from that is the effect that it had on my understanding of the importance of work in green schools. So this is an example of one of the classrooms that I visited while I was there. I was working with the facility staff and the capital staff at the school district. And, this, it's hard to see up there, isn't it? This is a classroom that is by no means the worst out there. But I start here because I think that this is why this room should care. And not because everyone loves kids and don't you love kids? Yes, we all love kids. But because we are requiring children to go to spaces like this to learn every day. And then we want them to be occupants and building managers and residents in buildings and act in a way that shows some sort of social action, community feel. Why in the world would a child who was put in a school like this and required to go there by their community feel any sense of community, feel any sense that they needed to act in a way that was sort of benefiting the whole? There's a total disconnect there. It doesn't make any sense if you think about it. So, the type of school building that this is, we have probably all seen bad school buildings. The difference comes when you look at it next to what could be. So this is the type of classroom that they're building in New Orleans. This is at Wilson Elementary, LEED Gold historic building that was the second school to open after Katrina. So this is why this room should care. We're educating our future occupants and residents. So New Orleans is a special case. Obviously, the storm affected the infrastructure and they're now rebuilding. But in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily a special case when it comes to urban school districts. So one of the things that is happening in New Orleans is that they had too many seats before Katrina. So every school district that's of any size in a city in this country has a graph that looks like this. The building stock has been maintained, and the dollars that they're getting per student has drastically declined since the flight from our cities. And this is true all over the place. Also true all over the place is that the building stock is aging, and a lot of it was built right before that flight from the cities, when we were not really at our best when it comes to building quality buildings, especially in the public arena. So these two issues are true everywhere. So the other thing that I was doing toward the end of my time in New Orleans was I was going around to various school district facilities, offices, and doing day-long trainings in sustainability planning with them. And I was hearing this a lot, but I was also hearing this real desire to do something. I've heard it a couple times from people here that the problem was not necessarily the will. The problem was just sort of knowing where to start and having the staff capacity. And a lot of these school districts have laid off a third of their staff, at least, in the last couple of years. So they really are truly strapped for manpower. So that's the birth of the fellowship program. So when I left New Orleans, I proposed to USGBC that we start this program and try to do this sort of embedded staff person in various school districts across the country. So we started with two, one in Boston public schools and one in Sacramento city schools. And I'm gonna walk through a few lessons learned with this. They've been in place for a year. They started last July, and the issues around these lessons learned really revolve around a lot of the stuff that keeps popping up today. So leadership and knowing your culture and being able to see the connection between those two. So I'm going to start with Sacramento. But first, when we, this is Phoebe Byerly, she's our Boston Public Schools Fellow, and this is Farah McDill, our Sacramento City Schools Fellow. And these fellows were hired with the school district, and the school district has defined their work plan for the fellows. So they're doing two sort of different things. Their work plans are quite different based on what the school district needed. Before we sent them out into the field, we got them together last summer with a group of sustainability-related staff in K-12 school districts. There were about 40 people there. That's what these two photos are from. This was from our office, and what we didn't realize when we got these people together is that they had never really gotten together before and didn't even know each other existed. And that the 45 people that were in the room were probably some of the only people doing this work in the country at the district level with schools. So it was a really exciting weekend. And we're doing this again at the end of the month. These are some of the school districts that have people coming. These are the school districts you would recognize. There are several others that you probably wouldn't know. Okay, so let's start in Sacramento. Sacramento had a very strong school-by-school program going on, a lot of gardening, student activities. The waste hauler wanted to start helping the school district recycle, so our fellow's been coordinating that work. She's been trying to get some systems together with the school gardening, trying to make that a little bit more streamlined of a process, that sort of thing. And she has a lot of support from the higher ups. So this is KJ, Kevin Johnson, who is the mayor of Sacramento at the Redford Institute with us a couple years ago. And after going to this gathering, he got up in his State of the City and announced that he was going to establish a $100 million revolving loan fund for schools in the region of Sacramento. He also established a GreenWise initiative, which is a regional economic development initiative. So there's a lot of leadership on the city level for FARA to be working within. So I'm taking you to our website to show you where to get this stuff. So you go under library, and we have a bunch of videos in here. And one of them is of the Sacramento superintendent. And this video he shot because he couldn't be at the sustainability strategy session that FARA put together with all the district level, sort of higher level staff. He couldn't be there, so this is his sort of statement of purpose. This is the type of leadership that she is working under. It's very strong and very meaningful in her work.
Good morning and welcome to the Sacramento City Unified School District's first annual Green School Convening, or Summit. I wanted to take a moment to just personally thank you for coming today, for sharing some time, for listening to our Green School Fellow, Farah McDill, talk to you about our efforts to green our schools. And when I talk about greening our schools, I mean how do we create environments in our schools and in our buildings that are healthy environments for our students and staff, that are also conducive to learning, that save energy, resources, and money. And it's really important that we work hard to make sure that we have green and sustainable schools for the reasons that I just mentioned, but also to ensure that we are doing our part, that we are making sure that our children and our families become good stewards of the environment. And I know this is important to Sacramento and to California. It wasn't something that I thought was so important when I came here, but I learned in my travels and in my visits how important it was to have good, healthy food in our schools, how important it was to have school gardens that children could spend time in, that families could be a part of, and that communities could help to take care of. And so I came to realize how important it is that we, in fact, create green and sustainable places and spaces to educate our children and to serve our staff. And in part, that's why we launched Project Green. You'll hear a little bit more about that today. It's an effort to really get our schools and our communities excited and involved and hands-on in the efforts to green our schools. So we're real excited about this. In fact, so excited that you'll notice we've changed our logo from the red apple to the green apple. And I'm really proud as I wear this apple it makes a real statement about what we think are our priorities. There is no substitute for focusing on teaching and learning, and that is our prime mission. But along the way, where we do it and how we do it is really important. And so that's why I wear the apple. It reminds me of what our priorities are, what our focus is, and that every day we're here to make the very best possible decisions for children. So have a great day, and I look forward to sharing more about Project Green and all our work in the coming weeks and months ahead. Thanks.
So I couldn't have said it better, right? I mean, having a leader that can articulate that in that way is amazingly powerful to be able to implement change. And we're talking about culture change this afternoon, and this is a prime example of that. Project Green that he was talking about is the school board reallocated $5 million to implement energy efficiency and green improvements to the school buildings in Sacramento. And they decided to let student teams do green audits on the schools and then propose the things that they wanted to spend money on. We have never seen anything like this anywhere in the country. It's incredible. So this is the superintendent listening to a third grader explain why he thought daylighting was important in his school and why he thought that they needed some solar tubes installed in their classrooms. So there was a panel of judges that went around and judged this competition, and I got to go out there for this, and it was truly amazing. And the superintendent actually pulled me aside during the event and noted how clearly he was seeing the correlation between the state learning and state teaching standards and what they were doing in these presentations, calculating budgets and figuring out the length of piping they would need to irrigate the field. I mean, like stuff that really was very much applied learning. Okay, so skipping over to Boston Public Schools, Phoebe was hired, so while Farah was hired to work more school by school, working on these sort of green teams and student and teacher engagement, that kind of thing. Sorry, I keep cutting out here. Phoebe was hired to work a little bit more on the policy level, the district level, working with district level staff on policy development. When she got there, Boston is actually a very strong district in a lot of ways. They've had energy management of some kind since 1984. They have a schoolyard initiative that's a community initiative, and it's touched every single schoolyard in Boston to improve it. They have a VOTEC program, which is in the lower left, that teaches high school kids about energy efficiency and has a full-scale home model in the high school. So when she got there, she's working on recycling across the district. This top picture is custodial training. They hadn't had a custodial training in 3 years, and she decided that they needed to have one. They have green cleaning, they just hadn't trained anybody on how to do it. She's working on a number of other initiatives to get groups in the community together who are already working in schools but need to get a little bit more unified vision. So Phoebe also has a strong leadership structure in place. The school districts had to apply to host the fellow. I didn't say that before, but 30 school districts applied to host one of these two fellows. And they were all strong applications. And we ended up choosing districts where we thought the leadership structure was in place to really support the work of the fellow. So this is Mayor Menino and his various green roles, including riding his bike down the street. He's very vocal about green. He just launched Greenovate, the new tech and green initiative in Boston. The other challenge that we have had with Boston in terms of change management is that Phoebe has had, and this has a big connection back actually with the leadership challenge. She has had to work so much harder to prove herself. She doesn't have someone saying, trust. She knows what she's doing. So she has spent the last year working on implementing recycling. And I have been pushing her so hard not to become the recycling person at the school district, which we all know is really possible to do. You can get stuck in recycling and never get out. But when I visited her in Boston, and we were going around with a researcher that we're working with at Auburn University as an evaluation consultant for this program, I was going around with Lisa and interviewing people, and the one thing they all kept saying was, no one could get recycling done before. It's been lagging for 4 years. We don't know what was going on before Phoebe came, and somehow she's gotten it going in a year. So as much as I thought that this was something Phoebe was getting stuck in, it was really something that Phoebe was proving herself in to everyone else working in the school district. So lessons learned. So you guys probably can't read this at all, but it's the evaluation team that's working with us is looking at how we're training the fellows and how that training is effective in preparing change agents for this work. And this is something I was talking to some people about yesterday. How do we train sustainability directors? There are programs on the graduate level, but are they really training the type of skills that we need these folks to have in order to affect change across an organization? So they're helping us look at that. This was going to be my last slide, but I can't stand ending on a slide like this, so I'm going to end on a slide like this. And this is a little hard to see, but this is the first day of school at Langston Hughes Academy, which was the first public building to open after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. And this was the first public building, the first school, the first lead school in Louisiana, all sorts of firsts. And this was the first day. And this girl was walking into her new school, and this was the first look on her face. And I absolutely love this photo. I love it so much it's next to my desk, because this is why this work is important to me. If we don't have kids that walk into school and think that this is given to me in order to like learn and be here, and this is something that's mine, then we're really headed in the wrong direction and telling our kids something that we shouldn't be telling them. So this is what we want out of our schools. So this is our website if you want to learn more. Thank you very much.